Welcome back to Wrestling with Horror. Today, we're going to be looking at the top 5 highest grossing horror movies of all time. Let's go. Before we get started, the numbers that I'm using are not lifetime gross numbers. They are just the overall box office numbers, and I don't believe that they've been adjusted for inflation. I think these are just the raw numbers that we're getting. So, this list varies. I looked at several different sources to try to find the most accurate information I could. So what I did was I found the movies that had the highest grosses. I took out ones that I don't really consider horror because there are a lot of those on the list. Like, for example, the new Doctor Strange movie technically is genre listed as a horror movie, but I'm not going to consider that a horror movie. So these 5 films are going to be the highest grossing horror movies that I consider to be horror movies. All right, let's get going with the list. Number 5, The Exorcist. The Exorcist was released in 1973 and directed by William Friedkin. It is based upon the novel written by William Peter Blatty. Blatty also wrote the screenplay for this film. The film was made with a budget of only $11 million, but when it came time to get those box office numbers, it raked in $441 million. This makes the film super profitable. This film shocked fans and got a lot of outrage from religious groups around the world. It was also said to have had a cursed set, but that's a different video. Number 4, Jaws. Released in 1975, Jaws only had $7 million on the budget to work with, but it brought in an impressive $470 million from the box office. Now, I've already talked about this film on this channel before, why it sticks out to me and is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, so I don't need to say a ton on that, but what they were able to accomplish with the budget they had, the practical effects, this film has earned its place on this list, and it is well deserved. Number 3, It Chapter 2. In 2019, It Chapter 2 was released with a larger budget and a nearly 45-minute longer runtime than the first chapter. The budget for this sequel was $79 million, and it brought in $473 million at the box office. This number is very large, but it still didn't quite touch what the original had, which we're going to get to the original in just a moment. For this sequel, all of the kid actors returned for this movie. We had new actors, we had to bring in new people to play the adult versions of those kids. The sequel is very well made, it's scary, but to me, it doesn't quite get to that level that It Chapter 1 did. Number 2, World War Z. In 2013, this action horror was released with a budget of $190 million, by far the largest budget on this list. It brought in $540 million at the box office. So this film's not quite as profitable as some of the others on this list, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it still made a ton of money. Now, this is a film that I struggled whether or not to include on this list, just because it tends to lean more into the action than the horror of it, but at the end of the day, it is a zombie film, and to me, a zombie film is a horror movie. Number 1, It Chapter 1. This film was released in 2017, and it was the return of a horror icon known as Pennywise. The original 1990 miniseries had Tim Curry playing Pennywise the Dancing Clown, whereas this one has Alexander Skarsgård donning the clown makeup. This iteration of Stephen King's novel had a budget of $35 million, but it brought in a monstrous $701 million at the box office. To go along with this massive influx of cash that the studio was making. You had amazing acting from all of the kid actors. Alexander Skarsgård does a wonderful job playing Pennywise. I think surpassing Tim Curry in terms of being scary. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Tim Curry. He is an icon and a legend and a national treasure. This film's success gave studios the realization that horror can be profitable at the box office, and it basically breathed a new life into horror. And it has absolutely earned every bit of the money that it made. So those were the top 5 highest grossing horror movies of all time. Did any of these films surprise you? Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts on these films were. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the channel with everybody that you know who is interested in horror and professional wrestling. Thank you for watching with me, and I will see you next time on Wrestling with Horror.